Hello, today I'm talking to Nicola Tyler. She's with the De Bono Foundation. She's done lots of work with them, but also she's a member of the faculty at Gibbs. We're talking peas today. Peas in a pod or peas in an alphabet?
Peas in an alphabet. I'm talking at the moment around 4 P's of innovation. The first one being purpose, the second one being potential, the third one being projects, and the fourth one being progress.
Okay, there we go. Well, why don't we start at the top then, with purpose? Because I suppose you can't totally have the rest of the 3 P's without the first, purpose.
I think there's always a tendency around innovation to put it on a set of values and say, well, we value innovation, but then the investment that follows that doesn't always take place. So I think for innovation to be effective in a corporation or any business environment, you need to have a real sense of purpose around why are we doing this? What is the burning platform?
Purpose, and the purpose also then defines the budget ultimately, I suspect, as well, because once you know what you're trying to achieve, you can then allocate the resources to it.
But I think yes and no, because I think what sometimes happens with innovation is because it's so unpredictable, you don't know what funds to commit before you start.
It's true innovation. You don't know what lies ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, good point. And then I suppose you've got to look at it and you say, right, we've got the purpose, but what's the potential?
Well, potential.
Do you know at this point?
Well, you'll never know, because potential is always around the hypothesis. So if you hypothesize that you could do something, what you've really got then is we have the potential to do something, but you don't actually know what that potential is until you act upon it. But the hypothesis is probably the key part of innovation, because it's in that space that you will generate the biggest ideas.
But the hypothesis is a moving target or a moving point. I mean, the hypothesis starts out, and by the time you've gone through progress, the hypothesis should not be recognizable theoretically.
Potentially, potentially. But I think as you move through potential and you start to act upon it, you realize potential over time. But over time, events and activities also come in. You've got new information. So now that hypothesis may change. But the whole theme and ethos around innovation is the what if.
Yeah.
What if we could do this? What if we could do that? It's the basis of strategy as well.
But innovation also throws up new potential, doesn't it?
Always.
Yeah. But you also get to a point where progress comes in, the third of the P's in the pod.
It's a big word for me at the moment, progress, because in my small consulting company, we've been saying what comes after innovation. Because innovation is now getting attached to the idea. But once you've got the idea, you have to move that idea forward in order to realize value. And the definition of progress is basically moving from an existing state to a new or better state. And it's a positive forward motion.
How then do progress and purpose relate? Because I would assume they're sort of intertwined.
They are intertwined, because once you've set purpose, once a trigger event or an activity or a decision in your business will decide the purpose behind your innovation or your activities, your potential is almost the ideas that you generate. The progress is moving those ideas forward so you begin to realize value.
But how do you measure progress? Because if innovation is, as innovation should be, unpredictable, you're going down a particular path, which may or may not bear from that particular path at any point. How do you accurately measure progress to understand whether or not you're achieving the potential, whether you're achieving the hypothesis?
That's a good question, Bruce. When I talk about strategy, I say to people, the first thing you've got to figure out, after you've figured out why are we doing this, is where are we going? And I did a day skippers course. I wouldn't say I'm a day skipper, but I did a day skippers course, and I've done some safety.
You've got a piece of paper which says day skipper. You're a day skipper.
Yeah, not to be trusted too easily. No. But when you sail, you actually have coordinates. You have longitude and latitude. And those coordinates define your destination. Where is it we're sailing to? The coordinates don't get people in the boat. People get in the boat because they have a vision of where you're going. So we say we're sailing to Mauritius, we're sailing to Mozambique, etc. The same sort of thing applies in innovation. You start out and you have a desired destination. Potentially we could go there.
You're dealing with winds, you're dealing with currents, you're dealing with tides, you're
things.
dealing with obstacles in the water, absolutely.
But the longitude and latitude are the coordinates of how you measure your progress towards a destination. So often what you'll find in business is we come up with an idea, we measure it numerically, and in essence you can use the same numerics to measure how close or far away you are from your desired target.
Which ultimately brings us to your fourth P, which is projects.
Exactly. Thanks for saying that.
No, you know what? Which but ultimately, you go through this entire process, and at the end of it, you have a result,
Yeah.
which is the project itself.
Yes.
And that project itself, how closely does it need to be aligned then to your original hypothesis? Is there a rule?
Well, sometimes the project, if the hypothesis is the potential, a project is really where the rubber hits the road. And occasionally, and most often in business, you'll find that potential gets diluted when it becomes a project. And suddenly you start to apply the constraints of business. We haven't got enough time, we haven't got enough money, we haven't got enough people. So you dilute the value of your potential. What we're currently exploring now is we're working with the Tom Peters company, and he's got a program called Wow Projects. And what that's about is basically putting innovation back into your project. So at the point that an innovation becomes a project, you still need to get the project going and keep it exciting.
But when you get to the project stage,
Yeah.
you need to go back to the first P, which is purpose. So it's there's a constant sort of cycle of, okay, we've achieved the project, let's go back to purpose and reinvigorate this entire thing and basically keep it constantly moving.
And I think in many ways innovation is cyclical, but I think your projects must always be aligned to the purpose. So you don't want random projects that are not aligned to why we're doing this, why do we need innovation. So the projects must be aligned to the first P, but as you act, you may influence the purpose. Because as you start to implement, you begin to discover more things about the potential. So they're interrelated, but they're also cyclical.
Nicola Tyler, she's the Chief Executive of the Business Results Group. She's also a member of the faculty here at GIBS.